Is there a dividend or distribution rather increase coming for our beloved HYLD from Hamilton ETFs? I have a suspicion there might be, and I'm going to tell you why in this video real quick, everyone. So before we do that, I just want to take a quick look at how HYLD has been doing. So HYLD, whenever you want to do a return comparison, you always have to do the return towards or versus VSP, the Vanguard S&P 500 listed in Canada, hedged to the Canadian dollar. Why? Because HYLD or HYLD is hedged to the Canadian dollar. So you can't compare it to VFV, you got to compare it to VSP. So if we do HYLD versus VSP starting in January 1st, 2024, why am I choosing that day? Because it's approximately January, February 2024 when HYLD really became the HYLD that we know now with fully yield maximizer, all internal ETFs. Before that, before this date, it had a mishmash of third-party ETFs, like QYLD, RYLD, XYLD that hugely underperform. But that's why I'm using that date. So it's not to cheat. I'm just using it because this is when HYLD is really the HYLD that it is now. Okay, so if we do a total return comparison with dividends reinvested, you see that it's outperforming VSP. So it has higher growth, higher total return than VSP. If you would have invested $10,000 on both of these, put the drip on both of these, you would have had a little bit more money with HYLD. So HYLD is literally outperforming the S&P 500, which is great. With dividends reinvested. With dividends not reinvested, they're still counting the dividends, but they're just not simulating that you're reinvesting them. It's pretty much there. It's slightly underperforming VSP. So very, very good performance in my personal opinion, everyone. This is not a sponsored video, by the way. I own HYLD. I like HYLD. And what could we compare it to, like a covered call competitor? I can't do USCL because that's not hedged to the Canadian dollar. But if we do ESPX, which is the Evolve S&P 500, hedged to the Canadian dollar, yes, I understand there's no 25% leverage, but it's kind of the only thing I could compare it to. You see that HYLD is outperforming ESP as well, ESPX rather as well. That's with dividends reinvested and with dividends not reinvested. And don't forget that if we, HYLD is not exactly the S&P 500, guys. I think of it more like a concentrated version of the S&P 500, but there's a tiny bit in Canada as well. There's a little bit of Canadian stuff in AMAX, EMAX, and RMAX. It's just a tiny bit. There's also some fixed income, which personally I'm not a fan of, but luckily it's just a tiny bit. But why do I say that there might be a distribution increase? Well, Hamilton ETFs is really an ETF that holds a bunch of other ETFs. And you see that the big two, the top two holdings, the most important holdings that will dictate the distribution of HYLD and how much it takes in is SMAX and QMAX, right? FMAX is in third place. We'll look at FMAX as well. But if we look at the distribution, HYLD changed their dividend in February of 2025 for March payout. You see that's where it went 14.1430 or 14.3 cents to 14.5 cents. Right now it still is at 14.5 cents. So if SMAX and QMAX are the biggest contributors or the biggest factors, obviously we got to look at SMAX and QMAX. And what I've noticed is that SMAX keeps raising their distribution, and the latest one's at 18 cents. And if you look at the same exact time when HYLD increased their distribution, SMAX was at 17.5 cents. So it's been rising. Well, it went down a little bit the following months, but now it's at 18 cents. So that's a pretty big increase, which literally means HYLD is taking in more income. Now, is it going to stay at 18 cents? I'm not sure. Considering the market is at all-time highs, I think it should stay there unless there's some sort of disaster. Or maybe keep going up as well. If we look at QMAX, the second most important position, right? SMAX, the biggest dictator by far for HYLD. It's literally 66.4%. That's out of 125, but it's a big chunk. QMAX, a huge factor as well, at 30%, a little over 30% out of 125. QMAX, you see that when they did the distribution increase, it was at 20.4 cents, and the latest one is the record distribution of QMAX, 20.5. A little slight increase as well. FMAX is in third place, so we'll look at it last. And this one has, when HYLD increased it, was at 16.5. Now it's at 17.5. The US financials have been doing really, really well. So this one increased their distribution as well. So this is why I have a feeling that maybe HYLD is able to increase their distribution slightly. I just wanted to make a quick video explaining my thoughts on this. Give me a thumbs up, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, these nice little quick videos. And, in the meantime, I wanted to give you a quick update on the performance of HYLD. And for the record, I'm filming this on July the 10th when the markets have hit all-time highs. So thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.